Good morning.
Good morning.
And how's everybody this fine morning? Okay, well, it's kind of interesting that this is the topic today, an attitude of reverence, and reverence, what does that mean? So the dictionary says it's a feeling or attitude of profound respect. An outward manifestation of this feeling. So it's basically how we approach our environment and the people and the circumstances and the situations in it. And even more important to that, to get right down to it, it's who we take into the world around us. So reverence is that deep respect for the world around us and the experiences in it and the one we've had. So, you know, for me, it's kind of an interesting talk today for a couple of different reasons. One is it's my last talk at the Joy of Life. It's the last one. And so this and what happened to me last Sunday has caused me to reflect and think a lot about the last 36 years of my journey, but in particular the last 27. Because last weekend I had the opportunity of presiding and running the whole Sunday program in Red Deer. And at the Red Deer Church we had a 25-year celebration, which means that's 25 years since the church was chartered, 25 years ago in June, basically. And it was 27 years ago in June that I moved to Red Deer. So it was 27 years ago that I began my journey as a minister. And prior to that, I had spent 8.5 years in the Center for Positive Living, which is now, of course, the other big church in town, the Center for Spiritual Living. And so I was reflecting upon that journey, and what happened there in Red Deer was so neat because we had John Bourne, who was the man that actually was ahead of a small group in Red Deer, and then we had a small study group up there that finally approached me and asked me to come up to Red Deer to start the church, and John spoke, and then I had my first real student who went on to become a minister and is a minister of a very successful church in Edmonton, Reverend Tim Peterson, and who's also a president of my board up there speak. And then one of the things that a lot of people, a few people here have taken is my core program, my counseling program, and the one-on-one or in group that I do with my self-sabotage. I was a prisoner of my own mind. And that began up there. After 11 years, I finally realized I had something. And so what you got to do is, first off, you got to have someone to test it on. So I needed a specimen. So I had my specimen for my very first program come up and share the results of his journey, and he's here today. That's Smiley Sean over here. So I had him, and then I had the four ministers up there, or the four ladies that run the church, were also students of mine, all four of them. And so I had the one that is the head minister, Reverend Valentine, come up and speak. So it was kind of a sharing of just some of the historical events that happened on my journey. And I realized that the attitude of reverence has to begin with the reverence and respect for oneself. Because you can't have it out there unless one develops it in here. So that's a key thing, is to have that respect for oneself and to begin to see oneself as a spiritual being in a physical journey. And so, you know, one of the challenges that I had for me, leaving my job and going up there and starting with nothing, one of the big challenges was I had this discussion in my mind that we always have to take us out of that place of being reverent and being respectful of what we'd accomplished and what we'd done. And I had this big challenge in my mind at the time, because here I am tipping in at 425 pounds, and I'm going up to start a church to teach people how to heal. Okay, you got it? So, you know, that part of me, that part of the ego that was stuck in the physical is saying, what the hell are you doing? I mean, you're going up there to do that, and look at you. You know, it's plain and simple. You haven't mastered that part of the journey yet. Then there was this other part that said, but Doug, you've come a long way since your days in the gang and the violence and the crime. And you've healed a big part of your life, and it would be a shame not to go do that, to share what you have with other people. And you never know what you can do and the influence you can have on people when you come from that part of respecting yourself for what you have accomplished, for the value that you do have, and the worth that you bring to the table, not the stuff that you haven't done. I don't even want to talk about the stuff I haven't done yet. I never talk about that. I keep working on it, and I talk about it once I've done it. But it was a very, very tough pull for me. And I decided, no, I have something to give that can provide people an opportunity to be more than what they are now and more of what they already are, stripping away the false beliefs about ourselves that we've respected, accepted, I should say. And so the reason I share that is because that was part, all of that and all of those people were all part of the experience that I was willing to stand out there and stand up for and to give what I had, not to be concerned about what I didn't have or what I haven't done. Tough point. That was a very, very powerful place for me to come to. And then at the end of 8 years, I knew I had to come back to Calgary. I didn't know what for. I thought I knew. So I come back and started another church, and it lasted a year, and then I went through a major burnout. And how could I have created the circumstances and situations where I lost everything I own, created a bankruptcy, physical illness, panic and anxiety attacks, and I had nothing. I mean, literally nothing. And there I am, a practitioner, a minister, and a professional accountant. How did I do that? Well, when one is willing to respect themselves enough to know that there is an answer here, and that must have happened because I needed it to happen that way to get this answer that I so coveted to desire. Because you see, in all of that and all of the things I had done, I was missing something. And I knew I was missing something, and I knew it was really important, and I knew it was key. But I didn't know what. So I'd been training for a couple of years and praying for a couple of years for God to give me this. Well, that's what had to happen in order for me to find what it was that I needed to find to fill that spot. I had, and after when I went through all the panic and I had to step out and resign from the church, and I went through all of that, and I'm going through this experience, and I'm following and doing what I was told to do to recover from all of this. And it took me back home to the Rockies, to my home in the mountains, and I spent 765K that summer hiking in the mountains almost all the time by myself in secluded areas and where there weren't a lot of people. And then I got my answer, you see. I got the answer. And it had to be done that way, or else, as the voice said, Doug, you'd have ran away in one of your roles and hid. And that's right, I would have. And the answer, bottom line, not a big revelation, folks. For me, it was big. That who I was with absolutely nothing. No roles. No ability to even use my mind in society in a competent way with nothing. Who I was with nothing was absolutely okay. Who I was okay with nothing. Now, that might not seem like a big deal, but that was huge to me. And so I didn't know where it was going to take me, but it took me back to teaching at SAIT. But what about my ministry? So then it took me to meeting another person. It took me meeting Reverend Nadine, a bright new young minister at the time going out, who had an idea of doing her own work. And I liked Nadine. Well, I hooked up with her because of her work with the youth. And I very much was into working with youth, so we did a few things like that. And then she told me about this church she was going to start. And I said to her, well, you know, I've got a lot of experience in that area, so I'd be more than willing to be a resource person for you to get going. And of course, that turned into more very quickly. That put me on my tenure with the board here, and which was just about 14 years of my journey. And the part that comes back to the reverence and being able to have that respect for the people around me that I attracted after that was the deepening respect that I had for myself of being who I was, just okay with who that was. And man, and when you get to be okay with who you are and quit beating the crap out of who you are, great things happen and you meet great people. So I had the chance to be part of this for all of the time it was here. And the respect I have for the people that I've met here and the traveling I've done with them both at the board level and at the service level and things like that is absolutely incredible, because I've got the chance to watch them learn and grow and to be part of that, as well as to have them be part of my learning and growing. And so, you know, there's a sadness when an ending comes, but also an excitement because it's a beginning. And as Atal Backman said, every new beginning comes from another beginning's end. And so life is a series of ending and beginnings. And our job is to position ourselves to minimize the impact of that, to be able to feel the pain and the grief and the letting go of that was great. And also to be able to step in and embrace with excitement that which is the unknown. So it's with the greatest reverence that I look upon the people in this room and bring to mind the people that aren't here today that were part of this, that bring joy to my heart, because I know that each and every one has been a part of my journey and my growing, and I know that I've been a part of theirs, and I'm certainly glad that 27 years ago, when I had that tussle going on in my mind, that I stepped out of it and decided to go for it. I had to do that in order to experience everything I have. And I don't regret it. Albeit, though, if you told me some of the things I'd have to go through and I'd have to do it, I wouldn't have done it. Not a chance, boy. I don't. And I'm sure Susan could probably vouch for that recently, too, and some of her growth, eh? So basically, that's what the idea is about. So then I want to switch it a little bit about talking about bringing out your authentic self. You see, we always have the authentic self here. And the authentic self does a lot of different things, but the problem is we get that other part of ourselves, which is that humanness, that ego that's attached to results and everything out here, in our way of being our authentic self. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is our alter egos. So one of the things that you'll see today is one of my alter egos is my alter ego. Now, what are you talking about? That's A-L-T-E-R, ego, which means in Latin, the other I, is a second self, which is believed to be distinct from a person's normal or original personality. So if you don't do that very well, they call it being a schizophrenic. But if you do it really well, it calls being in character in your different alter egos. And of course, one of my alter egos is my alter ego, the A-L-T-A-R, which is the Reverend Doug. And you know, when I step into my alter ego, whether it be in this capacity or counseling or treatment work or doing a wedding or a memorial, then I am in character, which takes me out of my regular human part into that alter ego, which also is transcending now into one of my new ones, which is Santa Doug. And during the week, people get tantalized with my Professor Doug. And of course, sometimes those who hang with me in the mountains or will have that experience with my new business is a Mountain Man Doug. And you know, one of the things in all of those characters that I am, that the same thing happens. Okay? And this is the key. In all of those characters, I don't have a past when I'm doing them, and I don't have a future. I don't even think about it when I'm in character. I am always in the now, you see. I am always, and it's easy for me to be in the now when I'm in character. It really is, because I'm just wrapped up in the adventure, and I really don't think about anything else other being there, and I trust in all of these character roles, characters that I created for myself, that which I need to know and do and say is always available to me, and there are no obstructions. And so it works real easy being in character. And I love it. I have a ball. However, here's the however part. You knew we were going to get to that, didn't you? However, there's what about being the character Doug, my other authentic self? You know, just the day-to-day Doug with the day-to-day human stuff and the distractions of forgetting that I'm a spiritual being and acting though I'm just in the physical. Oh yes, that happens. The real challenge for me is trying and working each day to actually walk the talk rather than talk the talk. That's the challenge we have in this journey. That's one of the tough things. And so we got to bring it back to the now, right now. And the way we do that is we strip away the concern about the future, and we're prepared to release the past. And I like the way it comes down, and it's presented by Eckhart Tolle. And he says, the moment your attention turns to the now, you feel a presence, a stillness, a peace. You no longer depend on the future for fulfillment and satisfaction. You don't look to the future for salvation. Therefore, you are not attached to results. You know, we could set goals and objectives and work ahead, but the instant we get attached to something in the future as a result, then that can be a limitation. That can cause us all kinds of grief and agony because we wonder, oh, well, I sure hope this is going to happen. I don't know what I'm going to do if that doesn't happen, or what is it I need to do to make that happen, or there's not enough money at the end of the month, you know, all that kind of stuff. Anybody do that? Of course, you don't have to put up your hands. I already know you do that. Okay, that's the nature of the being. So, yes, the future is important. Absolutely. But it's not nearly as important as now, because now creates our future. And if we don't want to have a future like our current state of thinking, especially the stinking thinking, then we need to work at reducing the amount of time and activity level we spend in what might or might not be. Because you see, nobody, that's right, nobody can tell you how it's going to be. Oh yes, we could have all kinds of conjecture, all kinds of thoughts, but nobody could tell you how it's going to be. I know that because I figured out, well, with this philosophy, I should be able to get that down, how it's going to be and how it's going to happen. And I've been working at it 25 years just for a game because I'm 100% batting on my project. Never been right once. Not once. Oh, some of it happened that way and this way, but never the way I thought it would be. And it's always, I'd have never guessed. Anybody said that? I'd have never guessed this would have happened. Okay? So we got to know that's not our jurisdiction. It's none of our business. Our business is to do the work, and as Roosevelt said, start where we are with what we can now. And then we'll see where it takes us. However, that's not the biggest one of the problems with the now. That's about the second biggest. There's another one that's huge, and that's called the past. Okay? It's the past. Every sinner has a future, and every saint has a past. I like what Tolley says about that. Oh, by the way, this is that F word. Forgiveness. He said, non-forgiveness is often toward another person or yourself. The other persons are a whole lot easier to deal with than the self. But it may be just as well towards any situation or condition, past, present, or future, that your mind refuses to accept. Yes, there can be non-forgiveness even with regard to the future. I'll never be able to do that. How can I do that? This is the mind's refusal to accept uncertainty, to accept that the future is ultimately beyond its control. Forgiveness is to relinquish your grievance and so let go of grief. Forgiveness is to offer no resistance to life, to allow life to live through you. The alternatives are pain and suffering. The moment you truly forgive, you have reclaimed your power from the mind. Non-forgiveness is the very nature of the mind, just as the mind-made false self, the ego, cannot survive without strife and conflict. Need a little bit of strife and conflict just to get it going, just to make it miserable so we can have something to talk about, and we can talk about the way it could have been or the way it was or the way it could have been and all of that. And there, what a waste of time, my God. And does anybody listen to this and hear themselves in this? Okay. That's the challenge. The mind cannot forgive. Only you can forgive. You become present, and as Jesus said, before you enter the temple, forgive. So that's the challenge of being able to release and to let go. Jesus put it another way in Luke chapter 6, verses 35 to 38. He said, but love your enemies and do good and lend, hoping for nothing again. And your reward shall be great, and ye shall be the children of the highest. For he is kind, God is kind unto the unthankful and to the evil also. Because you see, there's not somebody up there saying, well, if you're nice, you're going to get this, and if not, you're going to get your butt kicked. You don't have to worry about that. If you're nice, that's what you put out there. That's what comes back. And if you're naughty, well, not only will Santa take care of you, but you're going to get your butt kicked. Okay? So be ye therefore merciful, as your Father is also merciful. Judge not, and ye shall not be judged. Condemn not, and ye shall not be condemned. Forgive, and ye shall be forgiven. Give, and it shall be given unto you. Not only that, but good measure, pressed down and shaken together and running over, shall men give into your bosom. For what with the same measure that you mete or give, withal, it shall be measured back to you. So you're going to get it back what you give. So what the challenge here for us to do is, our challenge is to be able to release that past. It doesn't matter one bit. People say to me sometimes, I get them, they say, how do you live with yourself with doing all those bad things in the past? Don't you feel guilty? I said, no, not more, not at all. Well, why not? You should. And I said, no. I said, I dealt with it. I released it. I let it go. And I forgave myself. Do you know that raises a lot of problems with some people? They can't deal with that. Because they figure that because I was bad, I should still be bad and I should still be punished. But you see, the fact of the matter is, what one has to understand is, that's only their experience and their reality, because that's exactly what will happen to them, and that's exactly what they do. There are people that say that are constantly punishing themselves. So, you know, I have a lot of chats with people about they run their life and they base that on what other people will think. And it's nice if other people think I'm nice. That's great. I don't mind that. But I can't help the ones that don't. You know, it's very interesting in my classes that I teach at SAIT. Anywhere from 35 to 40 students, I do our evaluation at the end of the year, at the end of the semester. I get the results next semester. Guaranteed at least 3 to 5 people there are going to absolutely think I'm disgusting and terrible and horrible. Used to bother me. Then I tried to figure out who it was and try to be nice and everything. It didn't work. It doesn't matter how hard I tried, I got the same results. Then I got to the point of understanding that I'm giving away my power and conditions based on approval for other people. Anybody look for approval for other people? When I first stepped into the ministry, I was doing guest speaking, and I was under the tutorage of Dr. Arlene Bump, and I used to, at the end of the lesson, I'd go up to the front and I'd wait there for people to come and see how many would tell me how wonderful it was. Oh, it must not have been that good. There were only 10 this week. Well, it must have been really good. There were 15. Must be getting, you know, and I measure it like that. And then I went to a class Dr. Arlene was running, and it was the worst class I ever took. I only lasted about 20 minutes into it, and she got onto the topic that if you don't approve of yourself, how can you ever expect anybody else to approve of you? And I realized I didn't approve of myself. I was looking for other people for my approval, and it just tore me right down. I started crying. I couldn't stop, and I had to leave the class, and I cried for 2 days. And then I made myself a promise after that I didn't really care whether anybody else approved or not. I was going to do my best, and I was going to approve. And I started doing that, and the strangest thing happened. Unbelievably so. Once I got myself centered in that place, my approval from people doubled, tripled, lineups. I'm serious. And it was really nice. But you know what? It didn't matter. It didn't matter, because I approved. And what I was receiving was simply a reflection of that. Okay? Because the bottom line, folks, it really doesn't matter what other people think. Do you know why? Because they're not in your head thinking. I am the only thinker in my world. That's it. Doesn't matter what. Whether I've done good, bad, or indifferent, I am the only thinker in my world. Nobody else thinks in my world. Yes, I can allow other people to influence me and what I choose to think, but I am the only thinker in my world. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to just check out for a while, have somebody else do your thinking? I remember up in Red Deer, I had this wonderful lady. She said, "Oh, Reverend Doug, you have such a wonderful consciousness. I wish I had your consciousness." I said, well, dear, that's real nice, but do you understand? You know my background. But if you want my consciousness, you have to have all my memories and that which goes with it. And she goes, oh, I think I'll keep my own. Okay? Yeah. You can't have something else. You can only have what you got. And you can't change what you got or what you want to become until you really get down to understanding the core of the affirmation in Louise Hay, you can heal your life, or your body, I should say. That is my favorite, and anybody I work with is required to use it. Okay? I love and approve of myself exactly as I am, as you can see. Okay? Why? Well, you know, you might not be able to love yourself right away, but you could like yourself to start with. Okay? However, the key there is exactly as I am. Because most people don't want to start where they are. They want to start somewhere else. You can't do that. It is a physiological, logical experience that you can't start somewhere else other than where you're at. The football game's starting at 2:30. It's not going to be there at 2 o'clock even if you want it to start a little early. Okay? That means you got to accept how wonderful and good you are, and you got to accept how bad you feel about you are, and you even got to accept a little bit of ugly in there, because that's who you are. Once you can accept that, then you give yourself permission to take it from here to somewhere else. But it doesn't start by starting somewhere else. So this attitude of reverence, a lot of people think about it having something to do with people outside. No, it's something to do with where we're focused on inside. And if we work on having the respect for ourselves, then we have the respect for the people around us. And it's good, like doing a lesson like this. My level of respect and reverence, since I had this topic and been thinking about it, I can feel it already deepen. And I can feel it as more of something I need to focus on a day-to-day basis. So one of the other alter egos I have is what I call the spiritual Doug. I don't usually talk about that much. In fact, not at all. I guess I've never really put it like that. But that's that part of me that's going through the day-to-day human experience, and that's that part of me that's willing to look at those unusual thoughts that come through, or those coincidences, or those experiences, and see them as a guiding post or a sign that the spiritual self has given me to help me navigate through this thing called life, and to experience it in the best possible way that I can. And I feel so fortunate to have gone through all the stuff that I've gone through and all the butt kickings I've taken to get me to this point to be able to see that. Because, you know, ultimately when we do this and we go that way, the ultimate goal that we have is we get to experience peace, prosperity, fulfillment, and happiness. And not only more than experience it, we get to understand it, and we get to see it in our day-to-day experience all the time. And then it begins to deepen, because that's who we become. And I like it. I like who I've become. Every now and again, I don't like part of me. Okay? But that is part of me. And I'm going to move forward. I had a PPO performance appraisal with my boss, and I go to meetings and stuff like that, and I have a tendency to use a different type of vocabulary, and sometimes it offends people, or it's not politically correct. And my boss is a young fella, nice guy, you know, he's East Indian descent, but Canadian, and I taught his sister, and In the early 80s, I taught his mother and his aunt. They were really neat having him. And at the end of it, everything was wonderful. He said, well, you know, that meeting the other day, when you said that, I had to say that. And I said, I know. Yeah, it's your job. You have to do that. Right, you know. And he says, well, you know, I know you've been under a lot of stress and stuff like that. You probably didn't really mean that. And I said, yeah, I did. I did that. Yeah. And then he says, it's going to probably happen again because I've been like that all my life, you know, and that's just part of who I am. Sometimes I do that and it doesn't bother me, but it does offend other people. And sometimes I'm not politically correct. Well, maybe more than sometimes. And he says, well, you know, if you do that, I'm going to have to say it. I'm going to have to say something again. And I said, yeah, I said, yeah, not a problem. I understand. That's not personal. That's what you need to do. That's your job. And if you didn't do that, that wouldn't be right. As long as we don't have to go up to HR, it's okay. So it was a really great opportunity for him to learn something from that, right? Because he didn't like to do that because he didn't really want to get me upset, but that was what he needed to do and that was right for his job. And he was actually correct. You know, I was just being a little politically incorrect, which, what can I say? Can't say nothing about it. It's just part of who and what I am. And I really try to be politically correct most of the time. Right, Anna? Most of the time, yeah. Well, sometimes I just let it go out the window. But that's what the reverence is about, you know. It's about respecting yourself and respecting other people to the best of your abilities. And the real key thing, and I'm going to close with this idea, is about what if you got a problem person in your life that's a child or someone like that, or Sean or something like that. You know, okay? No. And you love the person, okay? But you don't like what they're doing. So what you gotta get real clear on that is unconditional love is loving the person and dealing with the issue. You've got to separate the two of them. Okay, that's where people can't get that, and they get all mixed up in that. So in my program that I work with, especially where there's conflict in families and stuff like that, that's the key issue of drawing the line in the sand. And I remember people with dealing with kids with drug addiction, oh, well, if we cut him off the money, he's threatening to kill himself. And I said, dear, he's dying anyhow, and you're helping him. By feeding him, you're helping him. Well, what if he kills himself? Well, he might do that. Okay? But if you don't and you keep going, he's killing himself anyhow. That's the bottom line. And so, you know, I've had the experiences, people draw the line in the sand and have wonderful results, absolutely wonderful results because they did that. And I've had people draw the line in the sand and the person dies, they kill himself. Okay? And I'm not just talking about other people I work with, I'm talking about myself and my family. You can't do that and you can't take on responsibility for that. You've got to do respect yourself and the person and do what's right. And work with whatever the results are that come. And you know, I still have issues over the one I did with my brother, and that happened. However, I have to get over that because I did the right thing. Okay? I did the right thing. It's just the results weren't great. And that's what we got to understand with people. If we support them on an ongoing, regular basis in their pain and their agony and their negativity, we don't respect ourselves and we don't respect them. Okay? We want to support them in moving forward in their joy, in their happiness, in their healing. And that's what we want to do. So, you know, when I get down to dealing with people and things like that, I'm pretty hardcore up front. If you're going to do the work, this is going to happen. If you're not, then move on and make place for somebody else. And come back when you're ready. Okay? Because that has to happen that way. And it has to happen with each and every one of us. And so this doesn't happen by, all of a sudden I'm revering myself. I got it. No, it's piecemeal. It's little steps, incremental steps on a day-to-day regular basis. That's what we need to bring to the table. And we do it through awareness. I tell you, awareness is one of the hardest things to stay focused with because there's so many distractions out there, and it's real easy to get stupid fast. Doesn't take me long. Okay? And if I don't watch my mind, I don't have to have nothing out there before I get stupid. It's off on a stupid tangent, and I'm going, whoo! That was a wild one. Anybody ever have that happen to you? Every day. So you see, that's the challenge about being the spiritual Doug or the spiritual Carl or Susan or Patty, anybody on a day-to-day basis, is to just keep bringing back to mind about the spiritual principles and the spiritual ideas and what's happened, and try to stay focused in spirit and take that from the inside out here, and to let the chatterbox chatter away and then shut it off and put it away, because we can do that. Cha-ching, it'll stop just as quick as we started. All we got to do is come from awareness. That's the greatest challenge that we've got. And it's been a great opportunity for me to be able to be part of the Joy of Life and the community in it. And I know that this is not an end of our journey together. It's just a beginning of another part. And it'll stay like that, and it'll evolve and grow, and who knows where it goes? I don't have a clue. All I know is I'm doing the right thing at the right time with the right people. And how do I know it? Because this is where I am, this is what I'm doing, and this is who I'm doing it with. So it's got to be the right thing, right?
Yeah.
Get rid of all that other stuff. It doesn't matter. It's about celebrating who and what we are right here and right now. So I know that for each and every one of us, we're a divine idea in the mind of God, and we deserve the very best in life, and we lovingly accept this now. And so as we accept it, we now know it is so, we give thanks that it is so, and so it is.
And so it is.
Yeah!
Yay.